Is this a situation where every day you're waking up and looking at what Beyonce's wearing?
10 months after, I forgot about it. Like I
You
gave up.
moved on.
The way I see it is I am not selfish to the point where I want to keep control of everything. But then you see people taking that direction and like, no, don't take that direction.
right.
I went there.
But it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right? They have to do it themselves.
And I really enjoyed working with Emirates. If they call me tomorrow to go and operate a flight, I'd be like,
You were able to do
I'd
it.
be so excited to go.
Faiza, welcome.
Thank you.
I am so happy you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Ever since we met a few months ago officially, because I think we've had a few online interactions. We won't go to the story, but I'm saying we've had some interactions online. I'm going to start off and we'll meander a little bit, if you don't mind, on a subject that I think is very topical for you and for me because it's the first week of school. You're a mother, you have two children, obviously a husband, was probably a bit of a third child. I'm not saying your husband, any husband, I'm including myself, is one. And you have touch wood, thriving business. You pull it off and you come today and you look the way you do. So what's the trick?
I don't think there's really a trick. Thank you, first of all. And I think I'm the third child for my husband, not the other way around. But
Fair enough.
but yeah, so well, you just go with it. When I remember being pregnant with my second child and thinking like, how am I gonna handle a second child and still be able to keep going with my goal, with my business, and this first child, because she was 1.5 when I was pregnant with the second one, and I just feel like you just go day by day and you just go with it, and some days are easier than others.
Was there a conscious decision to slow down professionally when you had the children? Like, did you ever think, you know what, this is now child number 2. I will just simply not be able to get as much done every day. You
No.
kept going full speed.
None of the above.
Okay.
I was just forced.
Yeah.
It took me a very long time. And I think a lot of women who are professionally, active and have kids also have the same challenge as I faced,
Yes,
which
of course.
was that I didn't understand that I was not going to be able to be as productive as what I was before because
Yeah.
of the rhythm.
Yeah.
And I'm a night person. I like to work at night. I like when it's very quiet and I can focus on my tasks. So that during the day I'm mostly with my team, and at night I was doing all of my
Create at night.
Yeah, create at night. Anything that's my project that I have to handle by myself, I would do these things at night. And with kids, impossible.
Yeah. So logistically, just you're here during the day. So your office is in D3. I know that you go home every night to put your kids to bed.
Yeah.
And then you come back, or what do you do? Or you?
No, I work from home.
You work
I
from
would
home.
have worked from home, but first of all, when you have a mother, your brain works differently
Yeah.
in the first few months after having a kid, during pregnancy and after having a kid. And so that was something very challenging. It affected my, self-confidence, because I was like, why am I not able to take a decision right now like I used to, or be as productive as I used to, because I was not understanding what was happening in my head. But also, you're so tired and exhausted that, at night I was not able to produce anything. So it took me a very long time to understand that instead of maybe doing 3 tasks a day, I would have to do 1 task a day. And 1 task a day for a week is great and it's good enough. And I was resisting that, and I was just not achieving anything in the first year, I would say, of each one of my kids. So no, it was not easy, and it came to me by force, basically.
And this humbling experience, do you feel now it means that you are more self-accepting in terms of your ability to do the work? Or you are just like, well, it'll be a year, it's going to pass, and then I'm going to go back to 3 tasks a day?
Yeah, it's more like, it was a phase, and then now I'm back to being like more productive because I have more freedom, my kids are more independent, and I'm able to, be more available for my company.
And how do you handle the guilt? Because I think that every mother I know, and I'm including my wife, that works professionally and is outside of the house effectively for a better part of the day, whether you're with the children, you feel it's not enough. When you're not with them, of course, you're guilty because you feel. How do you manage that? Do you have a group of other women professionally that you talk to? You would just sort of take it and move? I mean, how do you deal with it?
I think we all go through the same thing where in the beginning it's very difficult because you can't really communicate with the kids
Yeah.
and they're, not expressing themselves enough. And yes, you need to be able to rely on some women around you or some friends around you, whether they're men or women, that can, make you feel, okay, this is normal. Everyone's going through the same thing. But I think with as they grow, you can communicate with them and express yourself and let them express themselves and be able to feel like, okay, they're okay, they understand. I'm explaining to them what I'm going through, my feelings, and they are doing the same. And then, we're clear. So it's a bit easier now that they're bit older. But yeah, I think the guilt never goes really away 100%. It's always going to be there.
But also remember, and I'm not sure that's going to help, but maybe, I mean, I had a working mother all my life. She was a professor at university. She was teaching every day throughout my entire childhood. And so much of what I've learned about women, about working women specifically, came from that, in the sense that she wasn't talking about it, she was doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that doing, I have found with my own children, when we tell them go do sports, I think that if you're waking up every morning, putting on your gym shorts and shoes and going running, or whatever you do, it's much easier to say. If I'm sitting on the couch and saying you have to go play tennis, I don't think they
Yeah.
buy it. So
Yeah.
I think in many ways you will provide them hopefully with a fantastic role model.
Exactly. I agree with you. My mother had a great job and she got pregnant with twins after
Oof.
she had me and my big brother. So she was forced at 35 to have a pre-retirement. And I feel like it's unfortunate because she really enjoyed her job and I see that, we didn't show her any appreciation until much
How
later.
old were you when she got pregnant?
I was 6, 7 years old.
Six.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't understand. I just realized later on that she was not working and
The
some other
sacrifice.
mothers were working and she sacrificed. But I think that as a person also, it affects you and it affects the way you're dealing with your family.
Do you think that there was a subconscious element there of you thinking, saying, when you had your own children, I don't want to do that? I don't want to be in a position where I'm forced to leave what I love, work wise, that is, because I'm having children?
not in that sense, more
Okay.
that um, I know that they will not have a problem with me being,
Yeah. And the
focusing on
circumstances are
on
different,
my
obviously.
career.
Let's shift a little bit towards your career, actually, and um your progression. You did not study design in a formative way, right? From what I've heard from you and what I've read in doing my researches, you had a grandmother that was somewhat of an inspiration to you, right?
Yeah.
And that got you into fabrics and all of these things. Was this always a plan of yours, an aspiration of yours, and you did other jobs knowing that this will someday get you there? Or because you were a hostess before,
Yeah.
was that, and I know that being hostess is a very hectic job, but also, financially rewarding, and there's many, you get to see the world, etc., etc. Did you always know I'm doing this up until that? Or
Yes.
this? Okay.
So I worked as a flight attendant for 6 years with Emirates, and before that I was a student, really.
So that was
So
really your first real job.
yeah, and I had put in my head, I have no idea when, probably in my early 20s, that if by 35 years old I haven't started my brand, I'm a loser.
Can can we just pause for a second? So when you took the Emirates job, why Emirates? I mean, you were living in France, right?
Yeah,
I mean, Emirates is of course a great airline, but I mean,
I had a lot of things I wanted to do, by the
okay,
way.
right,
Fashion was the goal, of
okay,
course, that's
ultimate
the
goal.
dream,
So
the
you
ultimate
knew it
dream.
even then.
Yes, I
Okay,
was 12 years old when I decided that I wanted to
and
be a
why?
fashion designer. It was at school, they asked us what we want to do when we grow up. And one of my friends in class told me I want to be a fashion designer. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And she explained to me, and I said, yeah, I guess that's what I want to do too. She turned out to not be a fashion designer at the end. She gave up on that plan, but I
But
stuck
what
with it.
specifically about fashion design that got you so
So
interested?
the thing is, I always talk about my grandmother, but it's not only my grandmother. So my grandmother taught me everything that's manual, like
Tactile.
tactile, like fabrics, sewing. She gave me the sense of responsibility and confidence, where she gave me scissors and needles and things that I was very very young, like
Did
5
she
years
do it
old.
as a job or just
No,
no? She did it to support the family
yeah.
and kind of okay. So you just saw her being a
I
seamstress at
saw her
home.
and she taught me, and she would nap and I would just be behind her and play with fabric. She would always complain that there was so many needles, pins left in her bed. She was sleeping with pins behind her.
This is your maternal grandmother.
Yeah. But my mother introduced me to all art, all things arts.
Okay.
So anything movies, how do you say, musicals. So the classic movies, the musicals. She bought me my first fashion magazines. So she introduced me to everything art, singing, dancing, everything. Like I loved all of the arts that, exist. So there's that. And then there's my mother family that was, one of them was a painter.
Okay.
Other ones that had this incredible sense of fashion. My aunts who used to live in Paris and would come every so often on vacation, and I would see them like looking super sophisticated. So I think it's a mix of
Okay.
all of this that really, brought
Got
me
you
to think
excited.
I want to be part of this, world, like arts, fashion, and everything.
But then when you took your job,
I took the job with Emirates, which was also something I really wanted to do. So actually, I studied. I took like I graduated from this private school to have to be a flight attendant. I realized later that this degree would allow me to be a flight attendant in France only, and every other airline in the world didn't require this. So I did for nothing, kind of.
oh,
But then I interviewed for Emirates, got the job, and I did the same. How do you say? Diploma in English when
okay.
I trained with
Yeah.
Emirates.
Like a
So it
translation
was useful
almost.
at the end.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed working with Emirates. It was, I mean, I still look back. I could, if they called me tomorrow to go and operate a flight, I'd be like,
You were able to do
I'd
it.
be so excited to go.
That's so
I
funny.
loved that job. It was really, really enriching, learning about all the different cultures that they are, because really you spend time with people you don't know. So you just learn about their culture,
Yeah.
where they come from, how they see the world, how they see, different ways of living. And that was very interesting, even for my company and for my inspiration.
Of course.
And for my company, it was I was inspired a lot with Emirates in the way, in the culture of the company. Super
And of
inspiring.
course, there's the element of what to wear, not to wear on an airline, right?
Yeah.
Which is the practicality. Because when I first started speaking to you, what I noticed was, I mean, I don't know that many fashion designers, but I know some. And I feel some live completely in sort of this very theoretical world, and some are very pragmatic, and some are in the middle. You had that pragmatic element. I felt you understood fabrics, but also how they actually will look. It's not just this is a beautiful fabric, use it. But no, you know what? This is not going to work for. We were talking at the time about my restaurants and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
uniforms. You're like, this will not work on a uniform in a restaurant for this and that reason. And that's a very practical element.
Yeah.
I would imagine that being on an airline for 6-7 years.
That's one thing, but I think it's also that's more coming from my experience as a fashion designer over the years. When I
Okay.
started my brand, I kind of had realized that there was a lack in the market for luxury modest wear that embraces all the codes of international fashion trends. And I started with that, and I started with solely modest wear because I wanted to cater to this
At the
woman who
time, by
was
the way,
not
sorry to interrupt you, when
attendant.
there was very little of that,
There was nothing.
or
Yeah, I mean
none, actually.
there was abayas, but the
Yeah,
contemporary
but abaya is
aspect
not a
was not.
modest. Was not
Yeah,
considered in this kind of a
yeah,
modest fashion.
exactly. So that's what I focused on. But then I realized through my journey that I needed to wear my brand on a daily basis. I wanted to make sure that everything from my brand that I'm wearing
Yeah,
every
you
day.
represent your
If
brand.
I'm wearing a basic t-shirt, it has to be Bouguessa. If I'm wearing
I
jeans,
see.
it has to be Bouguessa. If I'm wearing a blazer, it has to be Bouguessa. So I kind of also adapted a lot of the products to what I want to wear and to a capsule wardrobe for all kind of women.
Can I just stop here for a second, because I think that's a very interesting point to me, because there's also a business case here to be made, and I'm curious whether that crossed your mind to say that, well, if I look at the world of real modest wear, fully covered, that's a niche market.
Yes.
Ultimately, that's a
Yes.
smaller market. It probably exists in this, not probably, it definitely exists in the Muslim world, in some other cultures as well. So
Exactly.
there are
Yeah.
some, I know that in Christianity and Judaism, there is some modest element as well, but that's not a very large market. The market you're now in, which may include some modest wear, is a much larger market. Was that a conscious thought of yours, or you just kind of graduated from one, evolved from one to the other? It's the right word.
It's funny because it really happened organically. Again, I started this brand because I wanted to cater to a group of consumers,
Underrepresented
underrepresented
consumers,
consumers,
women especially,
women
essentially.
especially. And then I noticed that there was some demand, some potential interest from other cultures, other, women with other beliefs that don't necessarily are dressing modestly, or
Yes.
that want to embrace that, but in their own way
They
and
want to
adapt it
weave it
to their
in.
own style.
The way today you see in a lot of places, people wearing abayas as a fashion statement.
Exactly.
Not necessarily
Yeah.
as a sort of religious.
There's a lot of brands today that actually are creating the long blazers that we came up with 10 years ago.
Of course.
And that don't even think of abaya when they actually create that. I'm talking about international brands.
Yeah. Many.
But this is our main product, and this is the product that we still have exactly the same kind of product range that we started with in terms of modest, because that was the initial intention, and I want to stick to that, and I intend to cover and cater to this market. But there's, again, like you mentioned, also that other spectrum of other women who want to wear a two-tone blazer, and they don't want to wear the long one, they want a short one. So let me offer the long version and the short version, and we kind of cover all the needs that have been reaching out to me.
Do you feel your roots, though, as a modest brand, essentially, are there red lines for you? In other words, would you do something totally décolleté? Would you do something, or would you find that not you and not the brand? Yeah, I don't know. Swimwear. I'm just trying to.
I do swimwear. I
Okay,
do
you do.
swimwear.
Okay.
I do short skirts.
Okay, so
I
this
do
is
cropped
okay.
blazers.
Okay, so you've
The
kind of.
person who wears it can wear it differently. They could wear the cropped the mini skirt. It's like a wrap over pants or as a skirt. I'm kind of respecting all of the different styles that there is. What we stick to is our DNA. It's a minimalism. It's not overly printed and colorful, and it's still like very sober and sophisticated, quite luxury, as they call it.
Yeah, now everybody calls it quite luxury. And I want to spend a bit of time on this minimalism because it's fascinating for me. You can see over there the Dieter Rams book, as little design as possible. Obviously, I started 7, 8 years ago a brand very different in hospitality, but in many ways that's also had a similar DNA. So I appreciate that of less is more, minimalist, timeless. So your designs and your style immediately resonated. And when I found out they were a customer, I was very flattered. What what informed this? Did this come naturally to you, or was that again a decision that the market needed a less cluttered, minimalist approach?
It's really my style.
It's just who you are.
Yeah, I
Which
don't
is
think
why
I could
this is
do
so
it.
authentic, right?
Yeah, I don't think I could do it if it was not my personal aesthetic. When I started the brand, and I think a lot of creatives, when they start a brand, whatever the brand is, whatever industry they are in, are confused in which direction to take
You
because
knew
they like
immediately.
different things. I also liked different things. I love hip hop culture. I like, street style a lot.
You have a bit of that in your
It is,
designs for
yes, it
sure. I
is.
see it.
It's natural. It
Yeah.
comes naturally. Because I don't refrain from, creating the way it comes.
Like you're not going for the minimalist fitted look necessarily.
Yeah,
It's just minimalist.
I had to choose, though, one of the aesthetics that I like. If I had to choose one to live with all my life, which one would it be? And it was that one.
Yeah.
So I that's why it comes so easily
So were
for me.
brands like Jill Sander and Helmut Lang and those types of, I don't know, they're not all Germanic, but they kind of feel very Germanic. They are, some of them are. Were those inspiration to you, or were there reference points?
I didn't know these
You
brands
didn't even know this. So this
when I
really
started.
was, I'm going to do what I think is right.
I would say
Because it has a bit of that element.
More inspired by Yves Saint Laurent
Okay.
and the kind of the vintage aesthetic of those luxury brands from in the 80s and the 90s, and then it evolved from there. But we really built the brand from a certain aesthetic, and we focused on what is working. and developed from there. So we make sure that we still cater to the same customer, to the same niche, like you mentioned earlier, and make sure that we are still relevant to her.
And who is your target customer today? You have obviously some data.
Yes.
So describe to me your target customer that you feel Bouguessa really hits.
So we have different kind of
Profiles. Okay.
profiles, personas. We have a big part of the creative community that shops with us because they find their aesthetic, they find their way to interpret their personal style through our clothing, maybe with something like this that is still something that's familiar. It's a blazer, but at the same time, there's some element to it that's creative and interesting, different. We have also top executives, mothers or not mothers, that shop from us that like to, because our vision is to create ready to wear made to inspire confidence. So that's,
Interesting.
you know, our motto kind of. So we want to make sure that we let the person who, I like to say the person because we are really close to starting menswear.
Yay!
I kind of
Or I was gonna start wearing the blazers anyway. I mean, that's
yeah,
fine.
I mean, this is kind of
You know what I
unisex.
mean?
So
Like,
we started to incorporate unisex styles, and
that's
then
great.
we paused it. We
Exciting.
will do it again.
I promise you to lose 15 kilos and be your model, so I can
No, you
pose for
don't
it.
need to. Believe me, like you're fine the way you are. But yeah, so we have the executive that, you know, need to kind of be assertive and want to feel confident in the way, you know, she looks, and she can do so with our clothing. And yeah, and the mothers who also appreciate fashion, who like to experiment with their style.
And you say mothers because of the practical element of the brand,
Yes.
you know, like the kind of, I don't want to say rushed, but you know what I mean? Slightly casual. I don't have 3 hours to
Yeah.
go and dress.
Yeah.
That's what you mean.
It's kind of the styles, like you can take this and wear it over like leggings and t-shirt and you're
And all of a sudden you look chic.
yeah. So it's pretty much the comfort aspect of it. But also the mothers I feel that shop from us are, you know, very fashion focused. So they like to, you know, care for their style and express who they are through their clothes.
Do you wear yourself other brands? At all? Zero?
No. I have a friend who actually one day told me, you know, you have to be wearing your brand. And it hit me really strongly. And I was like,
So
you're
top
right.
to bottom, you wear your brand every day?
I mean, if I wear sportswear, I don't have sportswear
okay,
yet.
fine.
So
I understand. But I'm
and
saying when you're going to work, let's just
everything
say on a
I
regular
don't
day.
do, like a printed T-shirt, like a Rolling Stones T-shirt, for example. If I want to wear something like this, I'll buy it from somewhere, but I'll wear it with my jeans or something like that. But no, most days I'm wearing my brand.
Okay.
It's kind of like it's in my head all the time.
Yeah.
I have to be wearing my brand, and the target for me, the goal is to actually make it as easy as possible, because if it's easy for me, then it's easy for my customer as well.
And how do you, because this is something a lot of, I think, fashion brands, the early days, struggle with, the identity of the designer versus the brand. So there's Faiza, the designer, and the owner as well, an operator. And there's Bouguessa, the brand, which obviously reflects you, but hopefully it has a life that goes beyond you. Do you think about that?
When I started my brand, I really wanted my work and my brand to stand out more than me.
It's very hard to do, impossible.
No, it's not. I don't think so. Like, do you know who's the designer of Acne Studio?
Good point. No.
So, you know, it depends of what is your goal.
True, but it carries your name as well.
And I think because I'm an introvert and I'm very shy, I know most people will be like, oh, it's not true, but it's true. I swear it's like an effort to connect with people.
Yeah.
And it's just the way I am. So it was, for me, maybe an excuse to say like, I want to hide and I just want to work and keep my head down and just keep pushing and working hard and let my work shine. And I think when I started, that was the best approach for me, because I was recognized for my work and I didn't have this ego. I was not focused on myself. I was focused on my work and really achieving, what I plan to do, which is to offer something that's not available.
So do you feel your majority of your customers don't know you and just like the brand?
Because I'm in my showroom and I work in the same place.
When they come, they see you.
I met a lot of them. And in the beginning, I did a lot this exercise of always being there whenever we had exhibitions, events, pop-ups, and I still do so because it's very important for me to be able to
Understand the
connect
customer's
and
needs.
understand. But I think maybe our followers don't all know who
Who
we
you are.
are. Why is it called Bouguessa? Is it an Emirati brand? Is it they don't really, a
They're
lot
not
of
sure.
them don't know.
And you're okay with that. You don't feel they need, do you feel they need the backstory?
Maybe they do.
I'm asking. I don't know.
Yeah, they probably do. I'm working on it.
Okay. So you do think it would help to know?
Yes.
I think so too, but
I
I'm
think
just
so. Yeah,
careful
yeah.
in
No,
terms of how you're.
I do think so too. Like I said, I probably used it as an excuse at first, hiding behind
Sure. Fair enough.
my personal
Yeah. No, but it's normal.
um
And now you feel more confident to kind of step out a
yeah,
bit
yeah,
and put a face to the
yeah.
brand. Let's talk a little bit about, I mean, every brand, especially I think in fashion, which it's so interesting what you're doing in the sense that your brand really is at its heart is minimalist, timeless, steady. I mean, everything from the colors to the cuts to the look. But then fashion brands benefit from the moment as well, which is important. You've had a few mega celebrities wear your brand. There's a moment when Beyonce chose one of your
Yeah.
dresses, right? Walk us through that moment and what that meant for you, that someone like Beyonce of that stature, because this is not like a mini celebrity or known to some people. I mean, this is like as big as it gets. A, how did that happen? Two, what was the effect?
So it's so funny, this story. I launched the brand. So I'm like
What year is
working on
this?
my business plan for a good 2 years, starting to think, okay, I have my identity. Let me start the collection, launch the collection discreetly on Instagram. And then suddenly I get a friend who tells me I've been contacted by this person who knows the stylist of Beyonce. And apparently they picked one piece for
And
her
where
to
did they
wear
find you?
on Instagram.
Ah, so this was all on Instagram.
Yeah. And I just launched,
Yeah.
I launched in April.
So does she have people just like scanning Instagram for interesting
So
looks, or
it's
does she sit
her
in her home and be
stylist
like,
is,
yeah, her?
I think she's really good at, like you said, scanning and finding these niche brands that are, you know, really focusing on supporting, I think, young designers, because she's done that through her career and through her
So interesting.
working with Beyonce, and she's done that a lot.
She's her stylist.
She's her stylist. So we sent the dress to the address we got, which is not the same person I'm talking to. But 6 months passed and nothing happens. So I'm like, okay, we got, scammed.
Yeah, they took a dress.
So I look at the name to whom we sent the shipment to, and I contact her on Instagram, and she
You're like,
doesn't
can I
even
have my
seem
dress
to
back,
be the
please?
stylist of Beyonce. There's nothing that proves so on her Instagram. She's very discreet. So I messaged her and I said, I sent you this. I want to know, just to know if you received it. And she responded, yes, the artist has seen the dress, but I cannot tell you when she's gonna wear it. It's like, okay, fair enough. That's what I wanted to know.
And you didn't know who the artist was.
Beyonce, yeah,
Oh,
of
you
course.
knew it was
Yeah, I
Beyonce
know
the
it
whole
was
time.
Beyonce,
Okay.
but she called her the artist.
Okay. You're like, yeah, the artist.
Fast forward to 10 months after I sent the piece, I wake up in the morning, I see this post on Instagram.
Sorry to interrupt you again, but is this a situation where every day you're waking up and looking at what Beyonce's wearing to see, or
No,
you weren't?
seriously, like I'm not scrolling at all. I'm
Yeah,
not
you
even
weren't even.
trying to.
Okay.
10 months after, I forgot
Yeah,
about
you
it. Like I
forgot. You
gave up.
moved on. You moved on.
And I realized that, I'm going to be sending stuff and some people might wear it and some people
Sah.
might not. And, by now I'm aware that this happens. So at that point, I discover it and I'm like, okay, I wake up and the first post I see on my Instagram is Beyonce wearing
Oh my God.
my dress. And I'm like, oh, like I didn't plan for this to happen. I didn't dream of it. I just know that maybe the first album that I bought was the Destiny's Child. So it's like hitting me like what? Like what is just happening? I'm a
And what
kid
happens
again,
then?
16 years old, thinking like I'm
That's
buying my
amazing.
first album.
Yeah.
And never, like where I come from, you would never, like I would never have thought
Yeah,
that
and
I would
because
ever
also
get.
she's not just famous, she's an icon, right?
Yeah.
So someone a lot of people admire. There's some people that are just famous. Kim Kardashian is famous. And I'm not comparing, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But I think, Beyonce is obviously the artistry is a
The
different level,
artistry,
right?
the level of
Everything.
work,
Everything.
everything. So No, I'm just like, at that moment, I'm just brought back to my 16 years old in my small apartment with my family and just thinking like, oh my God, this is happening. Like I never would have dreamt that one, I would have a brand. Two, I would like have started it. And three, Beyonce would be the first
That's amazing.
celebrity,
Yeah.
influencer, anything that would wear my designs. Like it's the first person
Wow.
that
And what happens after that? Like, is there literal
interviews.
people pick up on it?
No, for those wondering, celebrities really build your brand awareness. They don't necessarily generate sales
Okay,
that
that's interesting.
much.
That was my question.
I don't know, maybe some Kate with their cardigan and little bra when Katie Holmes wore this piece of garment, maybe they sold out. But for us, it didn't happen. And also it was 10 months later, I was already, with
Moved on to
another
other.
collection. And but brand awareness wise, like look, until today, we're talking about it. That was 10 years ago.
It's amazing.
So yeah, it actually give this momentum for a brand that is very good.
Walk me a little bit through a process. You have annual collections, correct?
We have 4 collections a year.
4 collections a
Yeah.
year. Walk me through. So it's a 3-month process. I'm sure it starts much earlier than that.
Yeah.
But a 3-month cycle. Walk me through from inception to it's out there, the process.
You
I'm
have
very
the
curious
time?
because I think a lot of people, yeah, I do have time. A lot of people are very interested in that because 4 is a lot. I mean, that's a lot. It means the moment you're inspired, it has to go into production to think about the next thing. So walk me through one cycle, mini cycle
So-
of creation.
The reason why we have 4 collections a year is because commercially it makes more sense for us. And we also work with a network of distribution, retailers. So we work with Unas, with Harvey Nichols, Galeries Lafayette, and multiple stores that we have connected with over the years. And they need to have newness on a regular basis.
Fresh.
So every 6 months was like, the
Too
collection
little.
would, yes, too little.
And sorry if I interrupt you again. Excuse my ignorance about this. Does the old collection disappear when the new one comes? If I'm at Galeries Lafayette,
It gets on sales.
it goes on
It
sale
goes on
and the new
sales.
one comes.
On sales. So the way I do that, I found my little recipe is that I create only twice a year, because I always say create, like the creativity aspect of what I do is maybe 5%, unfortunately, because I have, I'm running a team and there's so much other things to focus on. We need to sell also the collection. We need to sell the collection that's currently available while developing a new one. So there's so many other things. So I need to make sure that it's focused and it's done right at the right time. And so I create 2 times a year, and every time I create 2 collections at the same time.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Wow.
But how do I do it? I create one big collection and I divide it in 2.
So they are inspired from derived from the same inspiration?
Yes, it's very much the same inspiration. Maybe I have 2 different color palettes that still tie in together.
They follow each other, or you jump one and then you bring it back in?
No, I do together. I do groups of 2. So let's say spring and summer is together, but I will release a spring at some point and a summer at some point.
Okay.
And I release spring first, but summer, when it's delivered, will tie in with the spring. You can match whatever you buy from spring with the summer stuff, because they are actually essentially the same collection. I can buy a blazer from the spring and the pants from the summer, and they actually, work together because they are designed together.
How many pieces per collection on average?
Around 35.
35 SKUs.
No, that's 35 styles.
Styles.
And then SKUs, there's different colors of items.
So this is a intense production cycle.
Very intense.
If commercially, this is a bit of a tricky question. If I get the commercial element of this, if you had your wish, regardless of commercially, would you do a different cycle? Would you like to do once a year or some other form of cycle, or are you comfortable with this cycle?
I would do more.
You would do more?
Yeah, because why did I start this? Is to create, to express my creativity. But the fact that I create only 5% of the time is not because I want to, it's because I have no choice. I have a lot of other hats that I have to wear.
Of course.
And if I could, I would create more.
And I know that you effectively do bespoke jobs as well, right? So sort of essentially it's called a consultancy.
Yeah.
How much does that help your business from a commercial standpoint to allow you to have that creative output on your collections?
There are some times when I actually it's off designing season that I have to create for a private client.
Yes.
And what I create for her inspires me for the next
Something else.
collection. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take something from this and I'm going to modify it this way to actually incorporate it and make it more suitable for collection.
And would most smaller fashion labels like yourself survive if they didn't have that private business? Because again, I'm not an expert, but I'd imagine that business be brutal. I mean, you have to manage your creativity, production, wastage, cycle, sales.
So for us, it's a way to cater to the demand of
I see.
the region.
Which is
I
great.
don't know if it's the same
And you're very
elsewhere.
lucky because I think in this region there is this demand,
There
right?
is this demand to have something that's unique, that's
Yeah.
not available for everyone else, that's only for that person, and she will be willing to pay this extra amount to actually have something just
I'm
for
just
her.
not sure that's the case in Europe or the States as much as it is here.
But at the same time, it's very time and energy consuming. You
course.
have to be able to shift and it's basically forcing me to create at other times when I may
when
not
you would
have
be
the
taking time to do something else.
Or I just finished a collection and I have to create for this client, or I created for this client and I have to start a collection, but all my creativity went into what I created for her. So will I be able to create my collection right after? It's also you have to be able to shuffle that way and be able to switch back to something else.
Do you have any regrets about doing this? 10 years into it now. I mean, you've had some great success. People here know you, a lot of respect when your name comes up. And I'm not just saying that.
Thank you so much.
People always, honestly, like you see men and women, I mean, anyone who knows you. So that's an amazing reputation. But 10 years is not little. And you're still, to me, in the early stages of growing this brand.
Exactly.
It feels like a startup, right? Because I've been in my business for 7 years and it literally feels like a startup. 7 years is not little.
Yeah,
10
yeah.
years is not little.
Yeah.
But do you have any regrets when you look back now to be doing this the way you are? The amount of effort, risk, energy, commitment?
Yes. I would say I regret that I didn't focus on I don't actually, you know what the truth is? I don't think that I would have been able to do anything any other way.
I was going to just say, I
Yeah.
just want you to say it.
That's the thing. I don't think I would not.
These steps or missteps
Yeah.
is what took you
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah. You learn through the
In a
process.
straight line, I have the same feeling. I could tell you, I could have saved myself 2 years from going in this direction, which took me nowhere. But honestly, if I had not gone in that direction, I would have never learned to be in my direction
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But that's definitely sometimes how I feel.
But then you see people taking that direction and like, no, don't take that direction.
right.
I went there. And
But it's almost impossible,
Yeah.
right? They have to do it
they have,
themselves.
yeah, but it's, sometimes it's costly and
It's very
also
costly. And frankly,
mentally.
the key thing here is survival. I mean, I don't know about, I mean, I can tell you about my business. Costly is one thing, not surviving is another. I mean, in most of those cases, that's the end of it. That's it.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
take that road. It's a bit off. You continue in it, and you're out of
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
And it happens like this.
Yeah.
So, were there moments where you felt this is it? I'm going to give up? I mean, I certainly can tell you, I have had those moments.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm going to will my way through. But it's literally sheer will and stubbornness. There's like vaporware. I don't know if you've been in the same situation, but I can definitely tell you I felt that many times.
I did feel like this, and I went very far in that frame of thought to
Pull
the
back.
point where like, what else am I gonna do? Like, this is
Yeah, that's the second question.
if I stop this, I would, because a lot of people tell me like, everything you have achieved with Bouguessa, it's amazing and everything. And my answer is always like, I'm nowhere near
Yeah.
my goal. And so, if I stop now, like I would have just, given up.
And there's also a legitimate question of like, what am I going to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to wake up in the morning and then
I can't
what?
I can't be not doing anything.
No, you will definitely do something.
Yeah.
But this is so closely identified with who you are.
Yeah, it's my passion. It's
Your
a passion.
passion.
I can't be doing anything else.
From that perspective, how do you foresee this, like in terms of the future? to just learn and grow and iterate, which I think is the way to go? Or are you someone that would say, you know what, I've put 10 years, I've built a great brand. It has great resonance with a lot of my clients. Time for someone to take over that's a bigger brand that can, how you see a lot of these fashion brands get integrated into these larger companies. Would you even think about any of this?
The way I see it is I am not selfish to the point where I want to keep control of everything. I do
That's
realize
good.
today that not only for me, for my team, for people who believe in my brand,
For any investors you might have had, etc. Of
yeah,
course.
we need to give a chance to the brand.
Yes.
But I of course want to be involved in the decisions, and
Yes.
so in the future, definitely I see, because I have a vision of leaving a legacy for
Of course.
with
Future
with this
generation.
with
Yeah.
this brand. So I don't want to just be like the only one decision maker, and
Yes. It's a huge
the one that
responsibility.
carries all the growth of the brand. I think that we need support, and we need to be able to have certain systems in place that will allow us to give the full potential to this brand. So
I think that's honestly the way anyone that's built a brand with some success sees it. And I
yeah,
think again, I don't want to keep saying it's a right way, because I don't know if there's a right or wrong way, but I think it's the mature way
yeah,
of thinking about it.
yeah, because it's not for me. It's
No,
really the way I see it, and since I started, is really to kind of elevate the profile of the
of
Middle
course.
East with something that's ours, like as Arabs, to show that we also can do something that stands out on the international market. And
Well,
if
I
I
think,
am still in control of all the little pulling all the little strings, and it's gonna take
but I
so
think
long.
that's
I
really
don't
at the
know if
heart
I'm
of the
gonna
raison
have this.
d'etre, right? I mean, I felt the same way. It's a little bit of that feeling that, frankly, as Arabs, people are I don't want to say underappreciated. They don't think that we can also do those things.
Yeah,
And these things have to come from some other outside external creation and be imported here.
yeah,
And I think the last 10, 15 years, certainly in Dubai, certainly in many parts of the Arab world, a lot of people have now, and with the internet and social media and all these direct channels that popped up, that has changed significantly.
yeah,
Now, I think the hard part is timing. When do you say that? Because seemingly there's never really a right time. And then secondly, who the partners are, because you've poured your heart and soul into it,
yeah,
because it means something to you in terms of an identity as an Arab woman, not just
yeah,
as a brand. You don't want to just sort of go and sell it to McDonald's. I mean, nothing against
yeah.
McDonald's, but you know what I mean. So anyone that comes and works with you has to have a similar value system, and that's not easy to find.
No, definitely. I mean, well, to basically be a bit more clear, we're in the process of, I told you last time I met you, when bringing investors on board. We have never had investors before.
So I think it's a great next stage.
Yeah, but it's like you mentioned, it's very important to find the right partner,
Yes.
and we're taking our time to find the right partner to make sure that we share a vision. Also, I would never give up my brand. I think until I get to the vision that I see for it, I want to be involved. So
And
it's
I
not
don't
about
think most
selling.
most
It's really
investors
more,
would be wanting you to give up. In fact, they want you to free you up to do more of what you're
yeah,
doing,
exactly.
but have the ability to do it at a higher level.
Yeah, the support that I was talking about was more about systems
Yes.
and or all the structure, the infrastructure that a fashion company and fashion brand requires. That would allow us to really deploy the full potential of the brand.
When you were 16, did you think you would eventually wind up living in the Middle East?
I didn't want to
You,
live
you
in.
wanted
I
to.
Yeah,
So you knew that you would most likely not wind up being in France from a
I
long
knew I
term.
was not gonna be in
Okay.
France. I for a time I dreamt of New York. I think a lot
We
of
all did.
us did. But I don't remember in which scenario I saw something about Dubai, and I was like, oh, I would love to live there. I don't know what it's like around 17 years old. I moved to Dubai when I was 24.
Yeah.
So I just have this memory. Maybe I saw a documentary or something. But I remember being very attracted to this place, and subhanallah, I'm here.
Yeah. So and any regrets?
No,
None.
no, this is home. I could never live anywhere else, really.
Also, in many ways, Dubai is frankly the New York of 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
No,
in many
and
ways, right? I mean, it's creating a future and a structure and an environment that's hard to beat.
it's very hard to beat. The
Maybe not that same
safety,
size, and it punches above its weight. I mean, it's a, you know, let's call it whatever, 3.5, 4 million people city. It feels like, in some cases, to me, it feels like some days, feels like New York or a
yeah,
Cairo
yeah,
or, you know,
yeah,
like a mega city with 10,
yeah,
15 million
yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting rhythm, I have to say.
Yeah, and I like that you can live all different types of lifestyles.
That's true. Side by side.
Yeah, side by side, like family lifestyle. You know, you're super busy during the week, but on the weekend you have like a resort
Yes.
to go and hang out with friends, or visit family, visit friends, and it can be very casual. It can be very sophisticated at the same time.
One last question for you, Faiza. When is the next collection coming up?
We're actually launching the winter collection around the 19th, 20th of September.
Can you give us any hints?
Very, very sharp, kind of going back to my first aesthetic. So
Interesting.
going back to very sleek aesthetic, very sharp, very sophisticated, bringing back some elements from where we started. Maybe because it's 10 years and we
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
to kind of celebrate.
Are you celebrating 10 years? And
We did celebrate
Oh, you
in
did?
April, last
Mabruk.
April. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
What a testament to your brand and to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Honestly, this has
Thank
been
you
a lot
for
of
having
fun.
me. Honestly,
I have
it's a
learned so
pleasure.
much. I want you to stay with me 1 second. I have something small for you.
Oh, thank
In
you.
my research, I was looking at your office from the photographs.
I need more books.
I thought you had such a perfectly curated
Thank you.
set of books. I'm like, let's see if this one fits.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so
And
much.
hopefully
Thank
there's
you.
some substance as well.
And it really was a pleasure connecting with you a couple of months back and getting to understand your story as well. And with the with the lighthouse, like I love that I connected with your work and with your space before I met you.
Yes.
It's kind of, you know, how I work as well. And
Yeah, no, it's an
and
honor.
it was nice to connect the dots and understand how you
Same. No,
how
same.
you
I,
infused your identity into your
for better or worse, it's too late now.
can't go back.
It's too late to go look back.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing
Thank
this.
you.
I appreciate it.